Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt
And I'm
Roast.
Jessica Bun Bun.
This is our Gen V Season 2, Episode 8 reaction and review.
hmm
This season is over. We hope there's a Season 3. It's kind of unexplored waters there.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting with this cliffhanger now because it seems like, our students are not going to be students anymore. Like,
Yeah.
how many seasons were they going to be able to kind of like have them at the university and have everything go sideways and then go back to the university? It feels very much with this cliffhanger with them on the run. They've met up with Starlight. There was this awesome A Train cameo in here. We kind of have an idea now of what happened with him. The last we knew on the boys, he was just, Homelander was after him. He was on the run. And now we're seeing that he's working with Starlight. So they're all together now. And it's like, what does season 3 even look like?
This is the thing. I mean, Eric Kripke, creator of this whole universe, he said that there's an idea that is out there,
Mhm.
but here's kind of the confusing thing about where we are coming out of this finale. This cliffhanger, it does feel like a cliffhanger for the boys as opposed to Gen V.
Yes.
And some of the primary producers on Gen V, Michelle Fazekas, Thomas Schnauz, like they're working on other shows right now. So is there a plan to get the band back together down the road? Was everybody just told it's gonna be a while?
Yeah, and here's the thing too, right? Is obviously Starlight and A Train, they're going to be back on the boys.
Yes.
So this is the final season. So then what happens with our group of students? Are they also then just going to be brought over to the boys? Or they're going to be kind of like, oh, they're working on something else, while we're working on this?
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about with that. Also, how the Thomas Godolkin story seemingly came to an end.
Yeah.
But before we dive into anything more on any of this, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we have so much content coming
Mhm.
this fall, including Welcome to Derry, which is premiering a little bit later this month.
Yep.
And, speaking of Thomas Schnauz, this is the transitive property of the Breaking Bad universe. He worked on
Mhm.
it in Better Call Saul. Vince Gilligan's new show, Pluberus, is premiering very, very soon on Apple TV.
Absolutely. And we're going to be covering that here at the channel. So
Mhm.
hit that subscribe button. Also, we're covering Slow Horses over on our Patreon. If you want to check that out, all of our reviews are over there exclusively. It is the only place that you can get them. So I'll leave a link for you below.
Thank you guys so much for your support over there.
Yeah.
So here's the big struggle, I'll just say from the get-go, that this
Mhm.
finale had, is that they clearly want to make it so that the boys, if you're not watching Gen V, you can still sit back, relax, and have a good time with that show. The problem when that transitions over to Gen V is it put a lot of pressure, I think, for them to wrap up a lot of stuff in this finale, and they could have done a lot more with Godolkin. I was
Mhm.
satisfied with what they did, but at the same time, it did feel like, okay, we got to rush through all of this. We can't really have too much Gen V conversation over on the other show.
Yeah, I felt that this needed to be 2 episodes. It's like
Mhm.
she finally healed him and he had 1 episode, and it was really a half an episode before they were able to just take him down. Like, we didn't actually get to see him do as much damage as I thought he was going to do, and after all of this buildup,
Yeah.
I really wanted to see him do a lot of damage so that if they were going to kill him off, which they did, that it felt satisfying. But because it felt really rushed,
Mhm.
it was a lot tougher to digest. I just feel like they built him up
Yeah.
to be bigger than life, bigger than Homelander, bigger than everybody. And he got taken down in 30 minutes. I know that they don't want to like, this is going to be a weird crossover, but like Grey's Anatomy and Station 19, the
Yeah.
situation where if you weren't watching one show or the other show, you were lost on it. They would have entire storylines take place on one show and finish on the other. So if you were not watching both, oh well for you then.
Yeah.
And I know that they don't want that to happen here, but at the same time, I mean, Godolkin was such an interesting, powerful man. I was dying to see him go up against Homelander and maybe even control Homelander to a certain degree for even just a little while. 1 hour of that was going to be thrilling.
It really was. And here's the hard thing about what we're saying. I feel like Gen V this season told a more complete story than the last season of The Boys did. And I
Oh, you didn't even
feel
tell me to put my
no,
heart
I
out up for that.
listen.
Oh my god.
I'm just bringing the
Oh my
heat here, guys.
god.
Okay, I think The Boys has had higher highs, but I feel like this last season of it was really inconsistent at times. I think the second half was really good. It took a while to get there, but because this arc on Gen V this season was so good and so much better than the first season,
Yes.
they really wrote themselves into a corner here where they had to figure out how to write this out. I'm guessing Amazon did not want to give them more money for a longer season or whatever. They may not have even asked, but it was rushed. And I did enjoy the finale a lot, but it left me wanting more in a way in which I'm never really going to be able to get it.
Yeah, the Godolkin character was just built up in such a rich, layered way to then have him be this powerful and just go out. I mean, he was connected to some other things with the boys as well, because obviously he was having a relationship with Sage, who
Yeah.
is a bigger character over on the boys. And it was something that, if you aren't watching Gen V, then you're not going to really know that Godolkin actually broke through to her. She is not somebody who's vulnerable with
Yeah.
anybody. She is the smartest person in the world. And he is someone that was able to like break through in a way that she was really vulnerable with him. It was like, listen, I'm living up in Vought Tower. My apartment's not huge or anything, but like, do you want to move in? Are we going to have this life together? She really trusted him. He decided he was going to do his own thing. Power was, overwhelming him. He couldn't stop. He had his own plans, and she felt really broken by
Yeah.
it. And if you're not watching Gen V, now when we see her on The Boys, like, how does that transfer?
It was a really interesting moment because it sort of showed her own kryptonite being vulnerability and being
Right.
emotionally attached to someone, because Sage is one of the smartest people alive. She can plan out every scenario. Clearly, she had run all the mental numbers in her head and she thought this is the best way to go ahead and do our plan here. And just the idea that Godolkin didn't appreciate that, he didn't see the vision, and he just completely cast all that aside. It hurt her so much. And you, I think, have to at least somewhat attach this to The Boys, where Sage shows up on that show and still is going through it. Even if you're smart, you don't just forget about things that emotionally hurt you, right?
This is also going to have to be brought up, what's happened with Godolkin, because he decided to just go live on social media about what he was planning. Hey, everybody, whatever. Homelander was actually calling Sage, and Sage just was like, I'm going to just ignore this call for
Yeah.
now. But that conversation is going to end up having to happen at some point on The Boys, where Homelander's like, hey, what was this? Because she's still the CEO of the company.
I'm really pissed, honestly, that Anthony was not in this episode. And it's just because he's probably the best actor in the entire universe. I think Homelander's one of the best characters in the past 10 years. He's so terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's just that we knew he had to be looped in or involved in
Yes.
some way because he was at the end of season 1. The idea that they had the phone call, Sage didn't even answer it. We didn't even get to hear his voice. What gives?
I know. And it has to play out on The Boys, because we know Homelander is insecure. He needs to be coddled through everything. The fact that she did not pick up the call, that Godolkin, was out here saying what he was saying, she's going to have a lot of work to do with that. And she already had a lot of work to do with Homelander anyways. The whole plan has completely fallen apart. It feels like they have weaved in too much of Gen V that is going to spill into The Boys.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, and they don't explain it on The Boys, it's going to be very disappointing.
Yeah, because I feel like in going into everything with Marie, the other students, they have to at least be in a few episodes of The Boys moving forward, because
Right.
it feels like Annie is putting together her own coalition here, where you've got Starlight and A-Train, 2 former members of the 7.
Yeah.
They're both very well aware of the fact that, all right, Homelander, he's been deputized, he can sort of run the military, he's
Right.
got all these other soups. They need actual people, actual other soups to go with them. If you have someone as powerful as Marie, what are you going to just say, oh, go do this, and then on The Boys, we're just going to be like, oh, Marie's off in, I don't know, Arkansas doing something?
Yeah, and it's the same with Kate. Now that she has her powers back, Marie finally, decided to help her out with that. She's very thankful.
Yeah.
And same with Sam. We saw both of those characters over on The Boys, everything that happened with Frenchie. Like, those two characters very specifically have met up with Homelander, and Homelander has a somewhat relationship with them. So, like, how do they explain this then over on The Boys? It feels like
Hmm.
they have intertwined it so much that they should have just allowed Godolkin to live. That is where I am with it at this point. There is so much that has to be explained
Yeah.
from this show over on The Boys that they could have allowed this to happen.
It feels like a situation of too much good material and not enough time. And I know
Yeah,
that this is a show that's incredibly expensive to make.
for
I
sure.
get it. I understand all the visual
For sure.
effects. And I would be fine actually if they did sort of shrink the effects budget, and even if it didn't look as good, if we got another episode or two of story. And I mean this for The Boys as well. Like a classic example, you go back and watch a lot of the old Doctor Who episodes. I am a big Whovian, and going back to the Matt Smith days, the David Tennant days, those episodes, they didn't always look the best, but they were plentiful. There were a lot of them, and
Mhm.
it just feels like we're doing less and less episodes these days just because they look fancy.
It's true. And I mean, it is very hard with a superhero show and nowadays. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, back in the day, people were a little more, lenient with, oh, okay, it doesn't look as good, but, we're fine with it. I
Mhm.
mean, these days, people aren't like that.
I know. Everybody, if something doesn't look good, people go on social media and complain. I
That's
get
right.
it.
Yes.
But I am happy at least that our heroes made it through this finale. Of
Mhm.
course, I'm very happy to see my favorite character from this universe, Annie, back for one more appearance. It does sort of go full circle from where we saw her and Marie at the start of this season.
I was so excited to see A Train. He is
Yes.
one of my favorite characters over on The Boys. He has had one of the absolute best stories that is really fleshed out. I mean, his redemption arc was incredible
Yeah.
on that show. They really took their time with it over all the seasons to get him to this point that he is now working with Starlight and, the kids to, try to find a better way to do things. I just love A Train. So seeing him at the end of it, I was so excited.
I was floored. This is the only part of the finale, if I'm being honest, that legitimately surprised me. I enjoyed the other stuff, but I
Mhm.
did feel like, okay, we were probably getting resolution on Godolkin going
Yeah,
into
he was
this.
going to die. They were not going to bring him over to The
Yeah,
Boys.
I felt like someday we might see Annie and A-Train working together. That was a potential end game, but I
Yeah,
did not think we were going to see it here. I thought this is something
no.
that would be saved for The Boys. I do still hope that we are going to get to see a scene, even if it's a flashback of these two meeting up and talking things out. And A-Train had already realized that, all right, the Seven's not for me, Homelander's bad news, but what did she say, or what did he say, or what did someone say to make them realize we got to work together?
Absolutely. Like, I really want to know how that ended up working out. It may have been just a situation where A Train knew he didn't really have anywhere to go. He was just going to have to basically be speeding around the world for the rest of his life unless he found other allies to be able to actually fight back. He was just forever going to be on the run.
Yeah, and I hope we get a little more of that. I hope we get plenty of these characters. But in general, I'm coming out of this finale and feeling like there is still some meat on the bones beyond The Boys with a lot of them. Even if it's not college, even if it's a situation where, let's just say hypothetically, Homelander gets taken out on The Boys. Like, could these characters help to, I don't know, establish a new Vought, some sort of new superhero civilization?
Yeah, never. It's a corporation. So, I mean, somebody else will just step into that same spot. They'll just have another problem if it's not a Homelander.
Okay, so I've got a couple of beefs with this finale. They're pretty small, so I'm gonna lay them
Okay, all
out here.
right. I've got my beef hat on as well because that Marie Jordan breakup,
Yeah.
I didn't like it at all. That's a 0 out of 10. There was no reason for that.
No, it really just felt like we want to set up some potential romance for a season 3 because there's not going to be time to address that really in The Boys. They want there to clearly
No.
be more here, so they think they can build this up so that in season 3 or 4, or however long this lasts, we will all cheer when they are coming back together.
Yes.
Okay, and speaking of, ironically, little or not little, okay, explain this to me, everyone. You have this huge fight scene. Emma gets big for 2 seconds, punches somebody. Why didn't you just be big the entire fight? And you
I
could have
know.
finished it.
I
And
know.
like, clearly you figured it out here. Emma's powers still don't make any sense to me whatsoever. The situation with Kate, it's like, great, you got your arm back. We didn't see you could do anything. You're one of the most powerful characters, also, Kate.
Absolutely. I mean, Emma really is a powerful superhero, especially when she is big or whatever. But in general, she's just one of the best characters on the show. The writing for her, it's so good. She's
Yes.
very, very vulnerable. She's extremely funny. Her comedic timing is like on point.
It really is. Okay, this isn't even a theory. Here's what's going on. How much can we afford Big Emma this
I
season? Okay,
know.
5 seconds. You punch one person.
I
It's
know.
all over. We
I
can't afford
know.
anymore. No,
I know.
I'm really happy though with this season in general. I do think it's very entertaining. The Cypher storyline was very, very well done. I'm even glad we didn't just completely abandon Doug and we got
It does.
a little bit of closure even on this dude after everything that he's gone through.
All right, well, pour one out for Doug, but I was really glad that Polarity had some sort of resolution
Yes.
with everything that happened with Andre through Doug, who was like, yeah, when Cypher was controlling me, these are some of the things that I saw with your son and how he was a hero and he really cared about people. And, you know, he really tried to help everyone and help everyone escape. And it was something that Polarity really needed to hear to be able to heal somewhat. He's never going to be able to get over what happened. This is his
Yeah.
son, but it gives a little bit of healing.
And just for an isolated Gen V story, this is one of the ones that they did best because they had such a challenge with Chance passing when he did and
Yes.
having to rework a lot of this. But I think they really honored that character super,
Yep.
super well and gave Polarity excellent material because he did feel a lot
Yeah.
in season 1. He was just kind of there so that they could have another older character, but he really just felt like an essential part of this.
He really was, because he was the one superhero that, you know, Cypher Godolkin couldn't get into. And
Mhm.
he was able to be, you know, able to really help because he couldn't be controlled.
Well, this is where we are, guys, coming out of Gen V Season 2. Hopefully, the boys will be back by the middle of next year, and we'll get something more on it very, very soon.
Oh, I cannot wait. I can't wait, but then I'm also like, oh no, it's the last season.
Well, listen, we got Bot Rising.
No, we got Bob Rising.
All right, well, what did we all think about the Gen V finale? Do you want a Season 3? Give us your thoughts, your theories, and also hit that subscribe button. And if you want to support us further, join our Patreon. That link is in the description. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you here next time.